Tony, George, Scott Spreitzer at StockSports.com's 10 and 10. We got 10 games. You give us about 10 minutes or thereabouts, and we'll get you 6 college football games and 4 NFL games in just 1 second. First, a quick note, if you have yet to become a member over at DocSports.com, it's a real cool way to give it a trial run. You click on the link below this video, get yourself set up for a free $60 account. You can use those free $60 on any of Tony's daily packages, any of mine, or anybody else over at DocSports.com. It is as simple as that. Click on the link below the video, $60 free account, and it comes with the DocSports.com guarantee. You can't beat that with a stick. Let's get to our 10 and 10. Let's start in the Big Ten. Tony, we got Michigan at Wisconsin, where the Badgers are laying about 3.5 public and sharp money as we speak, coming in on the Wisconsin Badgers in this one. And I'll tell you what, Tony, when I look at Wisconsin, since Barry Alvarez, our old Husker linebacker, arrived on the scene in Madison, ever since Barry Alvarez took over that program, and even in the coaches hired since he went up to the AD and has moved on, they've known their identity as well as any major college football program over the past 20 plus years. However, Jack Cohen's throwing the football pretty well this year.
Yeah, he is. And so let me ask you a question. We'll make this real short because it is 10 and 10. What big game has Jim Harbaugh wants to be in Michigan? I can't think of one. Maybe last year, 38-13 over Wisconsin in Ann Arbor. The problem is, when you look at Army running all over Wisconsin, and then you think about Taylor running the ball, or Army running all over Michigan, and then you think about Taylor running the ball against Michigan when they're on the road, I'm not banking on Jim Harbaugh till he proves to me that he can win a big game here. I think the right team's favored.
Well, I have no doubt about that, because if they didn't favor Wisconsin, they'd be getting a lot of one-sided money. I tried to hit the guy behind the camera, our producer. He's got Cubs gear on, Tony.
That he does.
I'm a Cardinal fan. He's got Cubs gear on. What's up with that?
Well, Mark from Magoo's. He works for Pick, so we'll go ahead and keep it. And we're going to switch gears to the Big Ten. How about the BYU Cougars? Back-to-back overtime games. Took down Tennessee, took down USC, Washington. Kind of fixed what ailed them last week, going out to Hawaii, putting a 52-20 thumping on them here. And they're calling Wilson, the quarterback from BYU, the Mormon Manziel. They're calling him a big playmaker here. But I wrote down something here I just could not overlook. BYU is allowing 412 yards per game. Washington's putting up 456. Peterson's coaching. I don't know. It's 10.5 is the number, Scott.
How about 6.5? How about 6, actually?
Oh, pardon me. 5.5. Now it's at 6.
What kind of multiplication are you doing, man?
I'm looking ahead. I'm looking ahead to the other Pac-12.
You said what it should be, right? Because I know you like Washington in this one.
Yeah.
But anyway, I agree with you on Washington. Listen, UW beat BYU 35-7 last year. They out first down them 26-7. I don't think the Cougars have caught up to Washington that much yet.
Free play on the Washington Huskies right here.
I'm in agreement.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Going to switch gears here?
Yeah, let's go to Auburn and Texas A&M. Let's head to the Big 12 SEC. Big 12. Let's head to the SEC. We're doing good here. 50-50 betting on this one thus far from everything I've seen. A&M laying 4 in this particular game. Listen, when you look at what Auburn's done, they had the come from behind win against Oregon that was facilitated by Oregon Duck mistakes, but you got to give Auburn credit, because when the advantages were there to be taken, they took them, and they came back and they beat a very good Oregon football team. As far as, like when you look at the win over Kent, it really means nothing to me. The win over Tulane's not a bad gauge, Tony, because Tulane's not a bad football team. Here's what A&M's going to face. They're going to face the defense with probably the best individual talent across the board on the defensive side of the football in this one.
Yeah, I tell you what I saw at an A&M against upper tier team like Clemson, really a dud.
Right.
I mean, the quarterback, Mons, could not get going at all. I think Auburn smothers them. I think Auburn did a great job against Oregon here. And I'll tell you what, that's pretty tempting, because you're over the fall number 3 here with Auburn on the road. Just my thoughts, but I don't know. The visitor in this series, by the way, 6-0-1 against the spread since Texas A&M joined the SEC.
Now let's get to the Big 12. What do you say?
Oklahoma State, Sooner time. Oklahoma State, not Sooner time. Oklahoma State, little brother, the Cowboys last week, who I really wanted to take against Tulsa last week, Scott.
Sure.
I'm kind of glad I didn't, because it took them a while to get going here. Taking on Texas. Texas -5 at home. Mike Gundy has done it again. Another stud backfield. He's got an NFL caliber running back in Hubbard. Sanders, another in the long line of great quarterbacks there. And, of course, don't forget here, Gundy. 4 years in a row has beaten Texas. What do you think?
What a hell of a haircut. Listen, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking about Texas having that revenge, as Tony just mentioned a couple of times. They lost 38-35 last year. This kid Ellinger for Texas, which you all know about by now, I think should be getting even more aim for a possible Heisman Trophy. At least get invited to the O Football Club in New York for the vote, because, listen, you can see what he's doing this year, and he's just kind of following up what he did last year. He's got 11 touchdowns and no interceptions thus far for Texas. He's hitting on about 73% of his passes. And if you go back to the start of last year, Ellinger, 36 touchdown passes, only 5 picks. And you know what I want out of this? I want Texas to be extremely undervalued when we get to the Red River rivalry. I still call it the Red River shootout because, we weren't wimps back then. We didn't have to change words. But I think when the Red River rivalry takes place, boy, I'm hoping the Oklahoma Sooners are going to continue pounding teams like Texas Tech and Kansas so we can get some value with Texas. But in this particular game, boy, that line to me, Tony, looks like it's about where it should be, 5.5.
The total is 74 in this game. Just a quick note, Texas rush D allows 87 yards per game. They're not going to have a lot of success with Hubbard like they had earlier. I kind of sniff maybe a little bit of an under on this. I think it's going to be a tight ball game. 38-35 last year would have cleared it.
Yep.
Wouldn't be surprised to see a score like that going one way or the other.
Wouldn't be shocked. Oregon at Stanford, as we head out west to the Pac-12, and Stanford took that beating down in Orlando last week. He had him as a free pick, but I had him as a premium play.
Boom!
It was my top play last week.
Boom!
We kicked butt, and it was great to get 28 points on the board in the very first quarter by Central Florida. Stanford just got popped in the chops. I don't know if they're going to recover for this one, but how about that line? The Oregon Ducks playing 10.5 on the road in Palo Alto.
Well, I tell you what, I just can't figure out how Stanford can trade punches offensively. We found out that they are susceptible. They have given up 90 points and 1,035 yards in 2 weeks against USC in Central Florida. I'm telling you, I know it's the number here, 10.5, total 59.5, Scott. If I was a gambling man, I'm kind of a gambling man, I really wouldn't be afraid to lay it. I wouldn't be afraid to lay it. Notre Dame, Georgia, the Fighting Irish, taking on the Bulldogs. Westgate had them at 13.5 today, Scott, down from 14, still 14 in some spots here. A lot of points to lay against touchdown Jesus, but boy, I'll tell you, Georgia has looked good. The only team they played of any consequence, they beat Vandy 30-6 here, so this is their first test. It's between the hedges, Scott, down in Georgia. Your thoughts?
Well, the Irish, here's the thing. The Irish aren't a national championship contender this year. Georgia is. I wasn't too impressed with Ian Book in that game against Louisville. Yeah, he looked tentative. He looked like he wasn't really sure of what he was supposed to be doing in the passing game. Brian Kelly kind of admitted that in a halftime interview as he was coming off the field to head to the locker room. Very candid, and he said, we got to get Ian Book his confidence built. I don't think he's ready to go between the hedges against the Georgia Bulldogs.
Oh, and is this mine or yours?
Well, let's go to the NFL. Ravens and Chiefs.
Well, this is the marquee matchup. Did you tune into the marquee matchup last week? I'm going to tell you something. The marquee matchup every week, you need to tune in. We gave you the under in the Saints and Rams game last week, but I don't know if you knew this. The marquee matchup is an omen. We'll get to this game marquee matchup because we had let's see, Pittsburgh in week 1 against New England. Roethlisberger's done.
Yep.
Then we had New Orleans last week, and now Drew Brees is out. I'm hoping we don't lose Mahomes being a cheat, but tune into the marquee matchup for this one.
And there's a 9-0 spread situation in this game that I'm going to give you in the marquee matchup. I'll say this really fast. Last week I had Tennessee. I had New Orleans. Not trying to be the quarterback killer in week 3.
Falcons taking on the Colts here. Falcons, heart attack win on Monday Night Football here, where they could not run the football.
Right.
The Colts, one of my NFL winners last week. I love the Colts. And I tell you what, Jacoby Brissett, the real deal.
Yeah.
He's running. He's running. He's throwing. He disagrees, but he's running. He's throwing. He's buying time in the pocket. He's running on third downs here. The thing that concerns me about this is the Falcons' defensive line, Scott, against that offensive line of the Colts, which is proven to be very good.
Yep.
And Atlanta's inability to balance their attack at all with Dirk Cutter there now calling the shots there. I wasn't impressed with a last-second win over the walking wounded Philadelphia Eagles on Monday night. This is a tough road test. They're catching 2.5 Total 47.
And by the way, I think I said I had Tennessee who lost the quarterback. Well, it's because Mariota can play like he's lost sometimes. I had Pittsburgh and New Orleans last week on Sunday, so we killed off a couple of quarterbacks. As far as this game is concerned, I'll just say this. How about Jordan Wilkins last week? Here's what's crazy about that Indianapolis game. They're trailing 17-13 to Tennessee. About 4 minutes to go, Tennessee covering. Jordan Wilkins in his previous 6 NFL games had a grand total of 18 yards rushing. They gave him the football at his own 40 with about 4 minutes to go, and he breaks a 55-yard run inside the Tennessee 5. Basically, the game winner, or setting up the game winner, they went on to the victory. Texans and Chargers. Chargers 3, total 48 in this one. Listen, the Chargers ran for $137 against Detroit. They did it on about 5+ yards per carry, and they should have won that game. They had 2 touchdowns called back. They had a fumble at the goal line by the running back, Ekelar. I'll just say in this one, it would be tough to buck the Chargers. How about you? 2
words. Live dog. I'll give you 2 more words. Teaser bet. I like Houston in a teaser this week. The number gets them through 6 and 7 plus 9. I'd use the Texans in a teaser bet this week. And finally, Rams and Browns. And I'll tell you, I did this on my daily videos at YouTube. Scott and I both do daily videos right here on YouTube. The Browns are a very poorly coached team. They really are. If you watch that game on Monday Night Football, undisciplined, poorly coached, bad offensive game plan. That's not going to work against the Rams. It's going to work against the Jets when they got one arm tied behind their back on Monday Night Football here.
Screen quarterback.
But, Scott, I can't figure this out. I want to get your reaction to this, and then we're going to close it out. The Rams, are they getting any respect from odds makers? They 1.5-point favorite against Carolina, who's terrible. Mm-hmm. Now we know they're terrible. And 2 against New Orleans, and now 2.5 against the Browns. I know it's on the road, but I tell you, this is a team that went to the Super Bowl last year, and they got everybody back.
To me, there's a difference between power ratings and where the number should be. The book has made the number where it should be because it stayed basically where they opened it as of thus far. They barely beat Carolina. They won by 3. We have no idea what they would have done against New Orleans if Drew Brees would have stayed healthy throughout the entire game. And also another call goes the Rams' way and against New Orleans. Yep. Defensive touchdown, fumble return for a touchdown. New Orleans goes up 10-3. Referees blew the whistles, which means you can't even review it. It was a touchdown that was taken away. So I think the number's right. But here's the thing about the Browns. You mentioned coaching. They better get it together because they've got this one against the Rams, at Baltimore, at San Francisco, home Seattle, bye week at New England. Cleveland, you better get it together because if you play like you did these first 2 weeks, you're going to lose more than you're going to win over the next 5 weeks.
That's the 10-10. Did you have a free lean in this
10-10? I did have a free play, and it happened to be the same play you're on, so we're going to be on the same side.
It's a twofer.
It's a twofer. Last week we agreed on UCF. We didn't have it as a free pick here, but I like Washington over Brigham Young. Brigham Young, back-to-back overtime wins by 3 points, I think, in each game. I think Washington's going to be way too tough.
There you go, folks. And be sure to tune into the marquee matchup. We're going to nail down that big game between the Chiefs and the Ravens. Thanks for tuning in.